guy I've had a crush on for 10 years invited me to his wedding. To my surprise, the bride didn't show up. He stood there, holding the abandoned wedding dress, looking at me with a blank face. "I'll marry you. Would you say yes?" "Yeah, I would." I put on a wedding dress that didn't fit, wore a ring not meant for me, and walked into a marriage that didn't belong to me. 2 years later, on the day I found out I was pregnant, he pleaded with me. "Sherry needs a blood transfusion. Will you help her?" So, Sherry was back. I had been looking for Mike day and night just to tell him about the pregnancy. When I finally reached him, he hit me with this surprise. Over the phone, there was nothing but the sound of our breathing. Mike broke the silence first. "The driver will be at the house soon. Be ready to go." Turns out, I'd be giving blood whether I wanted to or not. The affection and sweetness of the past felt like a mirage. At the hospital, I found Mike sitting outside the ER, drained of life. When he looked at me, his eyes finally regained some warmth. He walked up, gripping my wrist tightly. "Jasmine." I didn't want to donate. I staggered as Mike pulled me, instinctively covering my stomach. Mike's usually calm face seemed a degree colder. "Listen, Jasmine, be good. I'm pregnant." I held back my bitterness, trying to tip the scales. Mike's grip slowly loosened. His face showed a moment of blankness, a hint of warmth touching his brow. The ER doors swung open. The doctor spoke urgently. "The patient needs a blood transfusion. Haven't you contacted her family?" "Babies can come later, honey. We can always have another." Mike stayed silent for a bit. His face seemed grim without looking at me. My heart felt like it was going to burst from my chest. The pain was unbearable. I pushed Mike away. "I don't agree. This is my baby. Jasmine, Sherry saved you once too." Mike's voice was hoarse, dragging me back to an embarrassing memory. Back in high school, I earned a special admission with my good grades. Among those wealthy kids, I stood out like a sore thumb. Mike, being the center of everyone's attention, chose to be nice to me, make me laugh, comfort me. He prepared gifts for me on every occasion. He rode his motorcycle with me to the sea, took me to the mountains to look at stars. On a gentle night, he even kissed my cheek. I couldn't help but like him. Sherry transferred in during our senior year, immediately catching all of Mike's attention. They became a couple quickly. I distanced myself, feeling inferior. But I didn't expect Sherry to angrily confront me. "I'm Mike's girlfriend. Who do you think you are? How dare you try to seduce him? Shameless little pauper. What do you have to compare with me?" As she yelled, she pushed me. I was shoved down the stairs. I lost consciousness. When I woke up, everyone said Sherry saved me. She has the same rare blood as me. She was so kind-hearted, even willing to help her boyfriend's supposed mistress. Mike came to see me, scrutinizing, his tone cold. "Jasmine, don't dream of things that aren't yours." Mike knew about my crush. Now he wanted to take back the right to that crush. By the time I snapped back to reality, Mike had dragged me to the blood room. There was no strength left to resist. Maybe this child wasn't meant to be. As the blood drained, I drifted into sleep. When I woke up, the baby was still there. The baby was so strong, desperately wanting to be with me. I had to protect him, couldn't abandon him. "Jasmine, the baby's still here. He didn't want to leave us." When I opened my eyes, Mike sat beside my bed, gently touching my stomach. I slightly moved away, staying silent. Mike took my hand, turned my face toward him, starting to explain seriously, yet calmly. From the day Sherry came back, she clung to Mike like crazy, but he ignored her and spoke harshly to her. Sherry even threatened Mike by wrist cutting. "Then go ahead and die. Who announces their suicide in advance?" Mike mocked and hung up. Later, Mike got a call from the hospital. He was Sherry's only emergency contact. "I love you, Jasmine." Mike's thumb slowly brushed my lips, eyes deepening. How could I believe him? But how could I not feel something? Sadly, I felt my heartbeat getting quicker, my neck warming. Mike stayed by my side almost every day, using his laptop to attend meetings, handling documents. He only stepped away when his secretary reported in. He cleaned me, washed my hair, never leaving it to anyone else. Whenever I slightly moved at night, he'd wake up, tired but patiently asking, "What is it? Are you okay?" Anywhere uncomfortable, kind and gentle, just like before. The day I was discharged, he took me for a checkup. Hearing the doctor say our baby was healthy, he smiled, so gentle. "Let's shop for the baby," Mike said, wrapping an arm around my waist, whispering in my ear. I ignored him. Mike didn't mind and took me to a baby store. He helped me to a sofa and patiently picked things out, bringing them to me for approval. My heart softened uncontrollably. "Forgive him. You love him so much." "I want some durian. Can you get me some?" I looked at Mike. His sensitive sense of smell couldn't tolerate those pungent foods. I hadn't eaten durian in 2 years. "It's not healthy." Mike's face tensed a bit. "I want it." "All right, I'll buy you some now." Mike chuckled helplessly, pinched my cheek dotingly. When I saw Mike carrying in the durian, pinching his nose, my eyes went sour. Tears came uncontrollably. He set the durian down, knelt in front of me, resting his forehead against mine. "Jasmine, what's wrong?" I didn't speak, just cried, more and more sorrowfully. "Sweetheart, don't scare me." "Honey, Stop crying, you're hurting me. I wrapped my arms around Mike's neck, sobbing. I'm just touched, I really craved it. Greedy cat. It's really not healthy though. Only once a week at most. Got it. Okay. I devoured the durian. Mike sat beside me, lightly patting my back, offering me warm water, ice tender. These days felt like they'd last forever. Until a stormy night, I was cuddled up with Mike watching a horror movie. When the ghostly lady in white appeared, I jumped and hugged Mike tightly. He stiffened, voice husky. Honey, be good, don't tease me. My face reddened as I let go. The doorbell rang. Mike paused the horror flick, ruffled my hair, and got up to answer it. It was Sherry, in a white dress, long black hair dripping, face as pale as a sheet. She looked like the ghost from the movie, choking me. Not a sound could escape. Mike, please, let me explain. Sherry reached out to grab Mike. He roughly shrugged her off. Are you crazy? Mike slammed the door shut. He came back, sat beside me, resumed the movie. He didn't say a word, nor did he pull me back into his arms. The mood inexplicably changed. Outside, lightning flashed, thunder rumbled again. Mike anxiously lit a cigarette. He hadn't smoked in days. For me. For our kid. I reached out to take the cigarette and put it out. But he suddenly stood up. I'm going out to smoke. Mike walked so fast, I couldn't stop him. So fast he didn't even shut the door. I could hear him. Sherry, stop it. His voice getting more and more tense. I jumped up, wanting to call him back. Holding the doorframe, I clearly saw Mike carrying Sherry to the car and speeding away. Sherry was sick. She had passed out. Mike couldn't just ignore it. That was all there was to it. Yet, my hands trembled for no reason. My heart too. The rain got heavier, the night darker. All night long, Mike didn't pick up my calls. By morning, when the rain stopped, I hurried to the hospital. I saw Mike by Sherry's bed, gently feeding her water. I pushed the door open, and they froze on the spot. Mike, come back with me. I wore the reddest lipstick. I didn't want to lose any more. Mike put down the water glass. Let's talk outside. He strode towards me, looking urgent, as if I might hurt Sherry in the bed. Don't go, Mike. You promised to stay with me. Sherry's weak voice made me falter. Mike paused for a moment but continued towards me. My heart slowly sank, not feeling as heavy. Mike, are you leaving me too? If you leave, I really don't want to live anymore. Sherry looked at the balcony, hinting at something. It's the second floor. Jumping wouldn't kill. I thought viciously to myself. Mike got scared. You head back first, Jasmine. If the kid had died that day, wouldn't it have been better? Right, Mike, I asked with a bitter laugh. I turned and walked out. Mike followed, slamming the hospital room door loudly. What are you doing? Mike frowned, staying by my side. I looked at his tired, impatient eyes. No word came out. I just kept walking out. Mike grabbed my wrist, trying to stop me, but didn't dare use much force, following me down the stairs. We both saw it. A white figure fluttered down from the second floor, like a limp butterfly. It felt like my heart stopped. Everything around lost its color, except Mike. He was still moving. He rushed over, pale as a sheet. Doctors and nurses took Sherry in, with Mike sticking close. He glanced at me still standing there, his look cold as ice, slicing right into my heart. Mike pressed his lips tightly, without saying a word. But I understood. If something happens to Sherry, you're done too. The chill slowly receded, and I moved, making my way into the hospital. Mike glanced at me again, then looked away, annoyed. Get lost. Sherry doesn't want to see you. Everything that just happened filled my head, tugging at my nerves. My already weak body reached the breaking point. My vision blurred. I couldn't hit the brakes. There was blood everywhere. When I came to, my lower belly felt skinned, the pain making me cry out miserably. Jasmine, what's wrong? Doctor, she's awake. Mike shouted, his eyes bloodshot from who knows how long he stayed by my side. Doctors came to give me painkillers and antibiotics. They couldn't help it. They had to tranquilize me. Mike gently stroked my hair, eyes cloudy. Where's the baby? He was silent for so long. I couldn't help but question him loudly again. Jasmine, we can have another child. My throat felt clogged. I whimpered in pain, the sound peculiar. In my blurred sight, I saw Mike's clenched fists, head down, in distress like mine. When I finally calmed down, Mike began to speak. He held my hand, gently apologizing, explaining everything. On the stormy night, Sherry left the hospital to find him but fainted from weakness. When Sherry woke up, she begged Mike to listen to her explanation. Men Chasing Debts, LED by Matt, went to her house, threatening her with a knife to cut off her dad's hand. Her dad broke down, sold his daughter for survival. Sherry cried, saying she was getting married the next day. Her fiancé is Mike, the CEO of K Group. He can repay the debt. Matt just sneered. Since your fiancé is Mike, how come you're still in debt today? Even if you're Mike's woman, so what? If I like you, you're mine. Sherry said she truly loved Mike, didn't want him to think she was with him for money. So she endured bitterly, wanted to carry the burden herself. Matt took Sherry away. Sherry's dad had more scattered debts. Without his cash cow, afraid of Mike, he ran away. So it was my fault to Sherry. I didn't believe her, didn't help her, didn't look for her, didn't save her, even troubled her when she finally escaped back. Don't be mad, honey, okay? Honey, I only like you now. No, I've always liked you. That's why I didn't care about Sherry. I owe her. I mumbled but couldn't say anything due to the pain. Mike's heart seemed split in two. But I didn't feel like he gave the other half to me. He stayed with me for a whole day. No matter how he apologized, what he said, I didn't respond. His forlorn look inexplicably made me sad. I loved him too much. For so many years. I was scared I'd eventually soften. When I get out, I'm getting a divorce. Mike's good-natured facade finally cracked. That's not possible. He grabbed my chin firmly, forcing me to look into his eyes. I looked into those passionate eyes, saw the anger in them, and laughed sarcastically. Are you right to me, Mike? How dare you say you like me? Your love is so cheap. Jasmine, do you know what it's like when I don't like you? Mike's voice was light and leisurely. He suddenly let go, walking away. Mike didn't come back. No one looked after me anymore. I buzzed for a nurse but was told the card had been cut off. The hunger and pain taught me he wanted to use money to make me give in, make me understand his love. Tears fell silently as I lay in bed, looking outside the window. I saw Mike pushing Sherry for a walk. He bent down to listen to her talk, his eyes gentle. It was like a needle pricking painfully. I struggled to sit up for a sip of water, but I had no strength. Watching the blood drip slowly into my veins was all I could do. I'd be hungry and thirsty but not die. In this private hospital run by K Group, there was no humanity for me. Driven to the brink mentally, my dignity destroyed, I tried to beg Mike, but couldn't get in touch. Sherry came in alone, wheeling herself into my room. She came to the side of my bed and handed me water. I should have knocked it over, but I was parched to the bone. Trembling, I reached out to take it, but Sherry poured the whole thing over her own face. Water dripped down her delicate face, soaking her white dress. Want some water? Beg me. She looked so pitiful and soaked, but her eyes were just full of smugness. I closed my eyes and tried to endure, feeling the dryness in my throat and the stickiness on my tongue. I humbled myself to speak, begging you. Suddenly, there was a loud noise as Mike stormed in angrily. He stopped in his tracks when he saw the scene before him, his long eyebrows furrowed. What are you doing here, Jasmine? Sherry shrunk back, whispering, I just wanted to give her some water. Mike glanced at me and said, she's not thirsty. I'm sorry. Sherry lowered her head, failing to hold back her tears as they fell one by one onto her white dress. She looked so pitiful. Finally, Mike showed some sympathy. He walked over to Sherry, gently steering her out, and bending down to comfort her. Don't cry. Stop wandering around. As he said this, Mike shot me a glance. Taken care of too well, starts biting. I didn't quite understand what he meant, but now it was hard to ask for mercy. All I could do was close my eyes and not look at them. Mike let out a cold laugh, clearly furious. That night, no nurse came to give me fluids. The painkillers were stopped. Eventually, I understood Mike was upset I wasn't suffering enough, and that's why he was seeing Sherry, his first love. All my wounds felt like they were on fire, and my lower abdomen seemed to be torn apart. I lay in bed, crying silently, curling up to endure the long, painful night, muttering that I was wrong. But Mike couldn't hear and wouldn't care. By daylight, the sound of a nurse pushing a cart finally echoed from the hallway, along with disdainful remarks. That Jasmine, thinking she could use the kid to climb the ranks. What a pity, Mr. Mike ignores her. A mistress daring to confront the girlfriend must be out of her mind. The door opened. I stared hard at the two nurses, my voice hoarse. I'm married to Mike. Ha! Lost your mind without your kid too. A sharp-tongued nurse sneered while changing my dressing. I used all my strength to knock over the slip bag, the blood flowing back. Get Mike to see me. Let him tell you. I'm not. How can he do this to me? Tears flowed uncontrollably. I could almost imagine, if Mike came in and held me this very moment, I would forgive him. I'd stop arguing with him, as long as he loved me. Mike came as dusk approached, under a vivid purple sky. What's going on? Mike, legs crossed, sat arrogantly watching as I lay gone on the bed. They said Sherry is your girlfriend, said I. Don't you want a divorce? Mike interrupted me. Sherry's not in a good place. Don't provoke her. I stared blankly at Mike. Maybe seeing my pitiful look softened him. He leaned over, gently caressing my cheek. Jasmine, stop arguing with me. Be good, okay? Now I had food and water, and someone to care for me. Perhaps in the face of basic survival needs, pride didn't mean much. I slowly escaped the suffocating feeling of having my throat squeezed. Finally, the day to be discharged came, and the sun shined on me again, firming my resolve to escape Mike. I feared him, to the point of terror. My card was unfrozen. I paid to find out the truth about Sherry's past runaway and got a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. The day I learned the truth was my birthday. It should have been the best birthday gift. Instead, I received a package from Mike. Limited edition. I had once said, it would be nice if it were green. Now Mike sent a green one. I opened the package, letting my tears fall inside. The phone rang. It was Mike. His voice sounded a bit tender. Happy birthday, honey. Things are busy now. I'll spend time with you in a few days. The call ended quickly. I took out the jewelry box from the package. Inside was a necklace and a birthday card signed by Sherry. Happy birthday. Sorry I took Mike today. You had to spend it alone. Oh well. After all, tomorrow is my birthday, and he promised to stay with me all night, to be the first to wish me happy birthday. On Sherry's birthday, I went there. Arrived late. They were about to wrap up. Mike bent over, lifting Sherry with her broken shin from the couch, then put her back. He looked up at me. What do you want? I threw the jewelry box at Sherry's face, blocked by Mike, returning Sherry's gift. Mike's face darkened. It's her birthday. Haven't you caused enough trouble? Sherry, like a frightened little animal, hid pitifully behind Mike. Mike, would you dare to tell Sherry you only love me? Say it, and I'll give you a big gift. Mike rubbed his brow, irritated. I already told her. Apologize to Sherry. Not happening. When have you seen a wife apologize to a mistress? Sherry started crying. Mike was always supposed to be mine. You stole him. Their mutual friends stood up for Sherry one by one. Sis, don't push it. Sis, more like a thief, thinking she's clever by taking advantage. Everyone sees Mike loves Sherry. Why run for trouble? So embarrassing. I clenched my hand until it hurt. Mike, come home tomorrow to sign the papers, unless you want a court divorce. Fine. Drink up, apologize to Sherry, then leave. Mike's face was icy. His gaze locked on me. The cost of divorce was an apology to his beloved. I smiled lightly, poured a glass of wine and raised it towards Sherry. I'm sorry for taking your husband. I downed it in one go. It burned like fire. Enduring the searing pain, I walked away, breaking out in a cold sweat. From inside, I heard glass shattering and Mike's angry shout. Everyone out. What the hell? As night fell, Mike finally came back. He brought in a bowl of durian, setting it before me. Don't make me angry, Jasmine. Mike's nose crinkled, speaking awkwardly. Mike said it's been years since he celebrated a birthday with Sherry. Yesterday was the first and the last time. I opened the package, eating the dessert as tears fell non-stop into the bowl. Mike knelt by my side, wiping my tears with a tissue, comforting me. Don't cry, honey. This scene played out endlessly, like an endless cycle. After finishing, I took out the divorce papers, pushing them in front of him. I don't want anything except this house. Mike's face gradually turned dark. He violently tossed the papers away, towering over me. Jasmine, haven't you suffered enough? Must you provoke me? Once again, I pushed the truth about why Sherry ran from the wedding towards him. Mike squinted, going through it all at an increasing pace. You see, she actually left you for someone else. Yet you ignore it, believing her word alone. Do you know why? Because you love her. You wish Sherry never betrayed you. Mike, you are so smart. You must know Sherry is lying, so you pretend you love me. But what did I do wrong to deserve this torture from you? Please, I'm begging you, for the sake of the child, let me go. During those days in the hospital, I almost lost my mind. I couldn't take it anymore. Mike's expression softened a bit. He came closer, cupping my face, gently wiping away my endless tears with his thumb. I'm not pretending, Jasmine. It was my fault. I shouldn't have trusted Sherry so easily, and I should have never tried to make up for her mistreating you. I'll make it up to you, okay? While you were in the hospital, I came to see you every day. I could never really hurt you. I can't bear losing you, my dear. Mike was like a madman. He didn't love me, yet he wouldn't let me go, determined to torment me. My eyes lost focus. You say you love me, but Sherry managed to keep you by threatening suicide. Can't I ask you to let me go? Mike's face turned cold. He pressed his thumb against my lips, stopping me from speaking further. He didn't say a word, just looked down at me. I returned his gaze, obedient and hopeless. Mike's long lashes finally fluttered. He released me and laughed mockingly. Fine, I'll let you go. You just better not regret it. He swiftly signed the papers. He almost slammed the door off its hinges. The roar of the engine signaled his car speeding away at full throttle. After divorcing Mike, I sold everything in the house I could. Anything unsellable, I tossed. I didn't want a trace left of my time with Mike. Finally, I sold the house too. A hefty amount appeared in my account. I finally got to leave and pursue studies in the UK. Before leaving, I heard about Mike. He was busy dealing with Sherry. He was brewing a storm of unquenchable rage. Hidden in London's fog, I felt a hit of safety. Mike wouldn't find me here, and I'd no longer be consumed by his fury. Studying in the UK was much tougher than back home, but it was fulfilling. As I completed my draft, my roommate Lisa asked me to go to a party with her, and I agreed. I had never intended to live stuck in past pain. I just hadn't found the chance to escape those memories. When Lisa took me to get a swimsuit, that's when I learned it was a pool party. What are you afraid of? Your body is great, be confident. Lisa nudged me into the store. I wasn't afraid, just modestly shy. There are lots of hotties there. You've been in the UK half a year and haven't dated anyone. Meanwhile, I've dated 6. Lisa chatted away, tossing a black bikini at me as she talked, then nodded approvingly. I picked up a white sheer cover-up too. The pool was huge, crowded with people. Relaxing on a lounge chair, sipping cocktails, I watched young people full of life. This felt like truly living. The cocktails were tasty, so much so I grabbed another and another. My hand was suddenly stopped. I looked up to see a lean waist, complete with 6-pack abs. Instinctively, I swallowed hard. I shifted my gaze upwards to a face as icy as stone. Single eyelids but with a slight double crease at the end, making him appear even colder. Thin lips, adding to his distant vibe. Pale skin, exuding an aloofness. That drink is strong. Your face is already red, he said with a voice as chilly as ice. I touched my face and withdrew my hand. Thanks. Wow, Nick, chatting with a beauty. A cheerful-looking guy came over and wrapped an arm around the cold-faced hottie. Hey there, gorgeous. You're stunning. I'm Leo. What's your name? This is my good friend, Nick, British Chinese, been single forever, a computer genius from Cambridge. He has countless admirers, but he ignores them all. How about exchanging contacts with him? This guy sure knew how to talk. I smiled. Hi, I'm Jasmine. You've got Nick wrong. He was just telling me the drink's strong. Thank you. Leo's eyes darted around, his expression becoming more delighted. He whistled, patted Nick's shoulder, and left. Nick stayed where he was, expression unchanged. Got a moment. What? I was puzzled at his downright frosty face. Your contact info. Heat spread through me for no reason, and I gave him my number. Nick nodded, handed me a juice, and walked away. It didn't feel like flirting, more like a survey. Later, my phone showed a friend request from Nick. His profile picture was just black, but once opened, it was a night sky, seemingly taken by him. He had no updates, just as cold as he seemed. After accepting the request, Nick remained silent on my list. We never communicated. Definitely just a survey. One day, my mentor and I went to Cambridge for a lecture. Upon leaving, I received a message from Nick. Saw you. Want a tour of our school? Not this time. I need to head back with my mentor now. I didn't really decline. That's just how my schedule was. Got it. I hadn't expected Nick to bring up the next time so soon. He was standing at my school's gate, in a black t-shirt, looking like a dream under the dim streetlight. I rushed out of the library and saw him being approached by a girl. I slowed my pace. He pointed at me suddenly, and the girl looked over, walking away afterward. What did you say? She wanted my contact. I told her to look for someone else. She asked who. Nick's storytelling voice seemed so casual, not trying to charm at all. Yet I did feel my face flush. I took Nick around the campus, giving introductions like a diligent guide. Nick listened attentively. When we reached the library, he asked if my design sketches were done. Not yet. He stepped into the library with long strides. I called out, won't you continue the tour? Nick raised a brow. You really think I'm here for sightseeing? That was the first lively expression I'd seen on him, intensely captivating. I exhaled softly, following him inside. Sitting in front of the computer, I focused on my sketches. Whenever I looked up, I saw Nick leaning against the nearest shelf, thoroughly absorbed in a book about architectural design. His lowered gaze suggested he really was into it. When we left the library, the night blended with the fog, steadily thickening. Are you into architecture? Nick casually shook his head. But you spent 5 hours on it? I gaped at him. He's into something else. Nick looked down at me, his usually serious lips slightly curving. I could suddenly feel that dormant heart in my chest pounding like mad, trying to break free. But I didn't respond. Memories of the past griped with a sudden wave of low self-esteem. Nick seemed to speak offhand, indifferent to my lack of a reply. We started chatting about random topics. This became oddly routine. Nick could somehow pinpoint when I finished my coursework each day and would show up to take me home. It didn't snow in London until my birthday. Nick glanced at my bare, long neck and handed me a bag. Inside was a black and white checkered scarf, very beautiful. I put it on. It was cold. When I pulled out the scarf, there was a gift box inside, exquisitely wrapped. I looked at him. Birthday gift. Made it myself, Nick seemed to say, trying to assure me it wasn't expensive. I shouldn't feel any pressure. But handmade things, they're the most precious. My eyes stung unexpectedly, and I lowered my head. I'm divorced. Nick gently tapped his fingers on his pants seam. Are you? Yeah. I looked at him in surprise. He shoved the gift into my hand. Is there any need to mention it if you are? I thought you were fishing for me. Does it bother you? Only if you still care. I shook my head hard. Nick raised his chin. Go upstairs, you softie. I wiped the tears that had somehow fallen down my face and hurried upstairs. I opened the gift. It was a music box. With the tunes playing, it felt like we were wandering on campus back that night. I must have stared at it for ages before I texted him. Thank you for the gift. I really like it. The video call came in, and Nick had just finished showering. His damp bangs were dripping with water. He casually wiped his hair with a white towel and popped open a can of Coke with his long fingers. The cold air circled around his fingers. It was intimate, enticing. He didn't even realize it. Is there a reward? Nick tilted his head back to sip the Coke, his Adam's apple moving. What? Like agreeing to be my girlfriend. Silence, until he chuckled and said, never mind. Okay. Nick's smile froze. Say it again. I said okay. The video call ended. I was a bit confused, went to the bathroom with my pajamas. After I came out, there was an urgent knock on the door. It was Nick. What are you doing here? Nick was catching his breath with his hands on his knees, came to confirm. Then he pulled me into his arms. Not for so long. Thought you changed your mind. He sounded a little hurt. I lightly patted his back. In my heart, something soft gave way. After we graduated, Nick proposed to me, in front of many classmates and friends, and I said yes. He introduced me to his parents, gentle people. We moved in together. It felt almost too blissful to be real. Maybe all the past sorrows were just lessons, leading me to meet him today. Jasmine, I've got to go to the US for a business trip, Nick said, hugging me. He sounded a bit whiny, clearly not wanting to go, reluctant to leave me. I have a collaboration I'm working on. Can't get away. How about I come find you after I'm done? I kissed him on the cheek to comfort him. Nick played with my fingers. All right, stay put and wait for me. I saw him off at the airport. As soon as the plane took off, I missed him already. The project was halfway through, at a crucial moment. It was past 1 a.m. when I finally got back from the studio. At the door, I saw a familiar figure. For a moment, it felt like I'd been stared down by a venomous snake. Cold sweat broke out. Jasmine, I've been looking for you, Mike said, dropping his cigarette. His eyes were dark and tired, his voice hoarse. I tried to act calm, smiling at him. How are you and Sherry doing? Mike pouted helplessly. Still jealous, aren't you? I really don't like her. The nausea crept up from deep inside me. I forced it back. I'm not jealous. I really wish you both well. We're divorced. Please, don't bother me. I was mad when we got divorced. Jasmine, I love you. How could I let you go? Mike looked at me with that mocking smile again, as if taunting my naivety. I took 2 steps back. I have a boyfriend now. I'm happy, not planning to go back, please. Before I could say leave me be, Mike pressed me against the car, gripping my chin. What did you say? His eyes were slowly turning red, seemingly furious. I was trembling with fear, tears streaming down crazily, dripping onto his hand. Mike let go like he'd been burned. You're scared of me. I crumpled to the ground. How could I not be? After the way you treated me, please, just let me live my life. Mike reached out to help me up, but I instinctively hugged myself. He took a step back. Sorry. Mike left. I thought maybe he had a change of heart. Turns out, he just had a different strategy to try and win my forgiveness. He was endlessly gentle, and always around. He helped the studio get a lot of deals and solved many problems for me. No matter how I begged him to stop, he just lowered his eyes, apologized, and played the victim. Mike brought more roses. I tossed them in the trash by my door. He looked at me with deep eyes. Jasmine, I have a boyfriend. Please don't say that. Hurts to hear. Mike lowered his gaze, looking perfectly hurt and resigned. Nick would be back soon. On our nightly calls, he could tell I was distracted. Got a side piece without telling me. Nick zoomed in his face on the screen, raising an eyebrow at me. Bullshit. Spicy. I'm coming back to check. Be good. I needed to get Mike to leave. Nick had said when he got back we'd get married. I couldn't let Mike ruin the wedding. Remember the sapphire ring you gave me? Said it was one of a kind? Find it, and I'll forgive you. I'd thrown it away. It was a relic of a love once so intense. I didn't want it showing up again. Mike's pretty eyes lit up. All right. Nick came back, like a lion inspecting his territory. Then he pulled me into his arms, teasing me. Thought you had a little lover, girl. Scared the hell out of me. I held his shoulders, scrunching my nose. My ex-husband came looking for me. I was scared of him, but I've sent him away. Nick got so mad he bit me hard, his actions more aggressive. If you ever hide this kind of thing from me again, just try. He was fierce. I clung to his neck crying, feeling more and more wronged. Nick softened, trying to soothe me. You gotta tell your husband if you're scared, so I can help. Otherwise, what's the point? Might as well ditch me. Okay. Really, ditch me. The wedding was almost entirely planned by Nick. Every time someone called him for work or to hang out, he'd proudly say, get lost, busy getting married. Nick was nothing like the aloof guy he'd once been in front of me. Everyone said he had changed so much, complimenting me on how impressive I was. Our wedding was held at a castle built in the 17th century. Perched on a hilltop, it was ancient and majestic, silent and noble. Red and pink roses covered the venue. Nick designed a drone light show, showcasing every scene of our encounters. The images reflected on the mist. Everything was soft and dreamy. 6. The priest was about to have us exchange rings when it happened. The castle doors swung open. Mike burst in, looking like a mess. He had the blue ring in his hand and stared right at me. Jasmine, come over here. I found it. At that moment, my world crumbled. I wished he would just die. Why doesn't he just die? Jasmine, you promised me. Jasmine, how can you marry someone else? Mike's eyes were turning red, and he was even crying. Whispers filled the room. Nick squeezed my wrist tight. His eyes were full of jealousy and fear. My dear Nick, there's no way I'd leave you for that devil Mike, unless I wanted to go to hell with him. Mike was there to crash the wedding. He came prepared, with a group of armed mercenaries to take me. Nick was surrounded by a dozen people, fighting like a mad beast. I never mentioned Mike to him, and he never asked. Maybe I should have told him earlier that this guy is a lunatic. Then, maybe, he wouldn't want me anymore. I'm still stuck in the mud, unable to escape or leave. Mike was driving us down the mountain with a cold expression. I couldn't even remember to be scared anymore, just sat in silence next to him. You like him? Mike turned his head to me. No, I love him. His grip on the steering wheel tightened, veins bulging before he calmed down again. Jasmine, I forgive you. I'll wait for you. We'll start over. Over my dead body. I tried with all my strength to grab the wheel to drive us both to hell. With one hand, Mike easily had me under control, his eyes blood red. Don't go crazy. I wasn't crazy. If Mike kept me for just one day, I'd take us both down on that day. Seeing me calm down, Mike's voice softened. How did you suddenly fall for someone else, Jasmine? Out of nowhere, a car headed up the mountain. Mike turned the steering wheel hard to try to protect me. He was covered in blood, weakly looking at me. Jasmine, I love you. If we make it out alive, we can. My vision went blurry too. When I woke up again, Nick was at my bedside. Detecting my movement, he lifted his head quickly, eyes all red. Honey, he was still in his black tuxedo, looking beautifully worn out. Where's Mike? Nick's face turned ashen, and he laughed self-deprecatingly. Paralyzed, are you moved? Why didn't he just die? I barely lifted my gaze, stared at the hospital ceiling, tears streaming down. Nick was stunned. He gave me some water. I slowly started to talk about memories I'd rather forget. With the final word, Nick's hand had turned into a tight fist, his face grim, but he softly rubbed my hair. Jasmine, I never dared to ask because I feared being compared to him in your heart. I worried I wasn't as good as him. I feared you loved him more. I was jealous. I minded it. I was terrified that someone else was unforgettable in your heart. Guess I was too petty not to ask, and it hurt my precious girl. His dry lips kissed my forehead. By the time I was fully recovered and ready to leave the hospital, Nick showed me the local news. K Group declared bankruptcy. CEO still unaccounted for. I couldn't hold back any longer and cried, hugging Nick around the neck. He gently patted my back, helping me calm down. Mike's still in the hospital. Wanna go see him? No. Mike's running out of money for treatment, and healthcare in the UK is a lot pricier than back home. That's good. Nick chuckled, pinching my nose. Little devil, pampering me. Nick planned another wedding for us. This time, it was even grander and more solemn. A group of tough security folks in sunglasses surrounded us, each with a gun slung across their chest. The priest had us exchange vows, exchange rings, share a passionate kiss. The sun poured down on us. Mike's epilogue. After divorcing Jasmine, Mike indulged himself daily, seeking pleasure in vices. But often, he felt empty, like drowning in despair. Friends feared his mood swings and gradually distanced themselves, leaving him alone at home. He started reflecting on how important Jasmine was to him. From the first strike of love to the tiresome waiting for a response, to the surprising discovery that she had a crush on him too. Back then, he and Sherry had a good relationship. She was savvy, making him look good. He never planned on breaking up. Things were fine as they were, until he married Jasmine, and everything seemed to fall into place. His heart was never more at peace. He indulged in that life, until Sherry came back. Years of relationship made him both annoyed with her and unable to ignore her. Honestly, he wasn't too bothered by Sherry running off. Choosing to marry her was just convenience, but marrying Jasmine was personal. Jasmine had too much, yet still, she was greedy and unruly. He didn't like disobedient or troublesome women, especially ones who affected his feelings so much. Jasmine was that in every way. He tried to warn her, but she defied him more and more. Even divorced him. Sure, Mike raised Jasmine like a delicate flower in a greenhouse, surrounded by luxury. Could she survive without him? Frustrated, he agreed to the divorce, never predicting the total loss of news about Jasmine. He fumed, then calmed, then dismissed it until he finally panicked. Surrendering seemed like his only option. Mike found Jasmine. It should have been a joyous reunion, but she had to provoke him. More absurdly, Jasmine was afraid of him. Mike's hands shook as memories surged. He was terrified. What had he done? What now? His Jasmine was running away. His Jasmine didn't want him anymore. Panic and fear overwhelmed him, making him repeatedly surrender, plead, and apologize. Jasmine, being soft-hearted and loving him, would forgive him. He searched all over China and finally found the blue sapphire among beggars. Mike had never been so excited. He rushed to the UK overnight, only to find Jasmine was married. Jasmine was telling the truth. She did have a boyfriend. Rage and jealousy intertwined before settling into calmness. Who could match his place in Jasmine's heart? He would bring the sapphire to her, and she would return. Regaining his confidence, Mike paid a lot for armed guards as a backup. Jasmine said she loved that man. Mike found it ridiculous. How could that be? But his heart was like it was being crushed, painfully hard to breathe. Jasmine hated him so much she wished him dead. A selfish and arrogant man, in that moment, realized how vital Jasmine was. He wanted her to live, to hope for her forgiveness, to dream of being together again. But waking up, Mike couldn't move anymore. A desperate, roaring shell of a man, Tae Group became a clawless wolf, slowly torn apart. He lay hopelessly in bed, watching through the window, Jasmine held by that other man. Her pretty profile wore a gentle smile. Sunshine would no longer touch him again. Mike knew he was near death.